These two guys have Minnesota sports flowing in their veins. Mackey and Judd on Score North and ScoreNorth.com.
It's a Tuesday scoop session with our guy Darren Doogie Wolfson from the 5 Eyewitness News Sports Department. Before we dive into some Vikings-related fodder and a Tim Connelly update from Doogie, a shout-out to our friends at Dennis Kirk and DennisKirk.com. It's riding season. Check out over 185,000 parts, apparel, and accessories for motorcycles, ATVs, UTVs, dirt bikes, you name it. All the top brands, same-day shipping, free shipping on orders over $89. They also have financing plans available for as low as 0% up to 12 months. DennisKirk.com for all your riding season needs. Doogie, Justin Jefferson is a rich man, and credit to you because you said we've been going back like 12 or 15 months on this contract fodder, and you had reported right before the season started that your people were telling you they were really close, like Justin Jefferson hovering a pen over a signature spot, and decided not to. $28 million a year was the figure that was reported by Adam Schefter that they didn't sign for, and he winds up becoming the richest non-quarterback in NFL history. So what do you make of it, and what else are you hearing behind the scenes, Dukes?
Well, I mean, well-deserved. I mean, he is the richest non-quarterback in NFL history until Jamar Chase signs a deal comparable to this, if not for significantly more money, probably in a year. Now, I know the Bengals do some goofy stuff, but Jamar Chase is well on his way to eclipsing this contract. But in the moment, congratulations to Justin. He becomes the highest paid non-quarterback. This is something the Vikings were always willing to do. It was always a matter of when, not if. Maybe I should have gravitated toward Kwesi's words around draft time when he said, hey, like, Justin, we need to celebrate him for a month. Because I thought there might be a chance it would get done closer to training camp, the start of training camp. Not in this moment. But, Judd, you know this. I texted you, Saturday? I said, hey, just check on this. I was dealing with some personal stuff. It was a wonky weekend on the personal front. And I never heard back, which sometimes you read between the lines. You're like, okay, well, if somebody who normally gets back to me doesn't get back to me, maybe that means there is some, oomph there, right? So, credit to, all the reporters that had it on Monday morning, 5 minutes before the Vikings put out the press release, 7 minutes before Justin Jefferson put out his video, which was recorded obviously well earlier. But yeah, I mean, the Vikings, Phil, can claim victory that the cap number in 2025 is not big. Like, a number of Vikings people have told me, and this isn't a shock, but they plan on going big next March. Next March. Right now, what is it, number 7 or number 6? It can fluctuate. 7th. But yeah, 7th in terms of cap space next March. Yes, they want to win this year. But when you look at the landscape of the NFC North, it might be a 7 or 8 win team, right? Not a 10 or 11 win team. It might be a non-playoff team. But they really feel like the foundation is placed. And I get it. It comes down to the quarterback, J.J. McCarthy. What is his ceiling? But the Vikings really feel like they are set up for all sorts of success 2025 and moving forward.
So, Dukes, the one thing that surprised me about the entire situation was the fact that not that Jefferson almost signed in September, but Phil said $28 million. That figure seemed low because that's below Tyreek Hill. And Tyreek Hill has now been lapped by the field, and he wants a new contract as well, not surprisingly. But how close do you think he really did come to signing, and do you think he considered that? Because I've always assumed it would be, if nothing else, just from a starting point, that it would be more than what Tyreek Hill got. So I'm curious now, did the Vikings almost in some ways sneak one by the Jefferson camp, which seems improbable? Because that figure is not, I always thought he's going to want to reset the market, which eventually he did yesterday.
Yeah, I mean, I think it was more the Vikings feeling like, hey, we almost got him to put pen to paper on September 9th, that Saturday before the opener against the Buccaneers at US Bank Stadium. I'm not necessarily convinced that Jefferson's representation at William Morris, because simultaneously they're negotiating that Bosa contract. with the Niners trying to make him, which they did in that moment, the highest paid non-quarterback. And there was always this thought the cap is going to keep going up, 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 right? Like, we don't need to rush things. There's no reason to do it before he starts his fourth season. I mean, what sort of precedent is there, Judd, for a guy signing a massive extension before he takes a snap to start his fourth season? I mean, I'm sure there's maybe an example or two. I'd have to rack my brain. It's why, like Jamar Chase, like, I don't think a Chase deal is getting done now. I think it's a year from now after he completes his fourth year. And so I never got the sense, like, yeah, maybe it was the Vikings trying to pull a little bit of a fast one, but, you know, Ben and Joel and those guys at William Morris, I mean, they're too savvy. They're too smart. They weren't going to do that. But I'm just telling you, from the Vikings standpoint, they really felt like they had made all sorts of progress in early September, that they really felt like, hey, like, that deal was darn near done on September 9th.
Yeah, so you bring up just the structure of the contract with the big signing bonus. You spread that out prorated over 4 years. And so really, because this is the last year of his rookie scale contract, so it's a 4-year deal that kicks in starting in 2025. Based on the nature of the contract, it doesn't really start to hit you hard on the books until 2026-ish. So
26, yeah, which at that point, you can work some cap gymnastics if you need to.
And so with that, and you mentioned this, the Vikings have still the 7th most cap space next offseason, 2025. They might be able to roll over some cap space from this year into next year. They have potentially a franchise young quarterback, a nice edge rusher room led by Dallas Turner, one of the top 3 to 5 left tackles in the NFL, the number 1 wide receiver, a really good number 2 wide receiver, one of the top 5 pass catching tight ends, cap space, a first-round pick. I mean, the Vikings, maybe they aren't a playoff team this year, but they are set up really nicely for the next 12 months, building for 2025 and 26, Doogie.
That's it, Phil. I mean, you know, ideally they'd have more draft picks in 2025, so it's not a perfect situation, but they do have that first-round pick. They have all that cap space. By the way, you mentioned the left tackle. They will get that deal done too. I promise.
Next year?
There's nothing to worry about. Yes, I would say next year. I don't think it's like on the horizon. They also want to keep Cam Bynum, right? So you look at Cam Bynum's contract. That's not one you need to break the bank on, but that's somebody they want here for the foreseeable future. So, you know, with immediate cap space, would you potentially look at something like that? I'm not hearing any, you know, steam like right in this moment, but something I certainly will keep an eye on. But I'm just telling you, I would not worry about a Christian Darrisaw extension. They plan on signing him when that time comes. I mean, he's changed representation a couple times, right? So, you know, that's an interesting piece of the puzzle, but there's really nothing to worry about. The Vikings want Darrisaw here. Everything I've heard is Darrisaw really enjoys being here. So that's a marriage I think that will continue for the next number of years.
So it's not a reckless speculation Thursday, but let's recklessly speculate on a Tuesday, Darren. When you say
reckless speculation,
essentially to put words in your mouth, big game hunting next March. Because, I mean, this team has not had the ability to really do that since 2018 when they signed Kirk. What are we thinking there? Are we thinking like a premier defensive tackle? Are we thinking, because, I mean, this team is, to what both of you guys just said, this team's in very good shape at a multitude of positions. So, like, when we're talking about that big fish to go catch, what are we thinking?
Well, yes. I mean, you know, they were all in on Christian Wilkins,
which is
unfortunately, so were the Raiders, right? So They lose out on Wilkins. But yes, I mean, I don't have a list in front of me of 2025 interior defensive lineman free agents. But yes, I certainly would look at an interior defensive lineman. Plus, I would also look at cornerback. Like Byron Murphy, is he back in 2025? Remains to be seen. Shaq Griffin, free agent. Like, there's question marks at the cornerback position. So I would look at cornerback, defensive tackle for sure. But, you know, I mean, heck, if the right guard, depending on how the guards play this year, right? If you're still looking at, you know, the interior of the offensive line, I mean, you know, you could, you know, look at a bunch of different positions, but certainly, I mean, the one you laid out, Judd, absolutely. Just because based on the evidence from March that they were all in on Wilkins, it would have to be interior defensive line.
You also wonder too and I don't think that the defensive tackle market is going to be what it was this last year, where you had at one point Chris Jones was maybe set to be a free agent, Matt Abwike, Christian Wilkins. I mean, you had some guys. I don't think it's as fruitful in free agency, but could you leverage your first round pick in a trade to absorb someone and sign a new contract if another team? Ideally, you would use first round pick and cap space separately, but they've got some different things they could do strategically to add if corner and defensive tackle are the two main things that they're missing.
Yeah, I mean, I can't rule out Phil. I would be surprised.
Full Rams, we call that, Doogie, in the business.
Yeah,
full Rams.
You don't want to go full Rams.
I don't think they would do that, but like, I'm not necessarily ruling it out. I'm just saying in the moment, I don't think that's the route they would go. I mean, it's both, right? You draft a stud, right? Probably one of those two positions in all likelihood. Then, yes, you utilize all that cap space to go get the other position.
Yeah.
I think that with this contract now for Justin being done too, at least on paper and at least as far as a to-do list, this offseason has been a huge success. Like if you had and we basically did, if you had a to-do list on the day after the regular season came to an end, right? And I said at the time, I want to see it. Like, I'm not going to assume, I want to see it. And, we talked about Kwesi's future at that time and like where things were, which I think was incredibly fair. But I now think as we sit here in June that they deserve a lot of credit, because basically if you look at that list, there are very few things that aren't checked.
Move off 8, get your future franchise quarterback. A move that we didn't expect is also make a trade for one of the top edge rushers in the draft.
Which they didn't expect, probably.
Yeah, debate the draft capital side of that, but they wind up with those two players.
Right.
They fill some spots here and there in free agency. Yeah, I mean, and then the Justin Jefferson contract. I mean, some major franchise altering moves here. And at the end of the day, they're going to be judged, and Kwesi will be judged, and KOC. Did you develop JJ McCarthy? Did it turn into a train wreck? And we won't know for probably a couple years.
But yes, I'm with you, Judd. I mean, you bring up Kwesi. There were legit questions. I think he nailed it. I think his staff nailed it. Something to keep an eye on. You've got KOC. You've got Kwesi with 2 years left on their contracts. I would not be shocked. Something to keep an eye on. Does each get a contract extension? I mean, KOC, I'm positive, can be here for as long as he wants. All right? But I think Kwesi is tied to that. And so I would look at the possibility of those two guys getting contract extensions. Maybe that's something before, week 1. Maybe it's, late August, early September. But just keep an eye on that. But yes, right? And they had plans B, C, D, like Christian Wilkins. I have no doubt in my mind was a plan A. Okay, well, let's quickly pivot. We can't get him. Let's go sign Jonathan Grenard. You look at all the free agent signings, there's nothing that's too crazy. Like Grenard, he was really good in Houston. I don't think I didn't look at that contract and say, whoa, what the heck are you doing? Mm-hmm. Right? Van Ginkel, little bit of a question mark coming off a foot injury, right? I mean, like he missed the playoff game. He got hurt in week 18. We're still waiting to see him on the field. We won't see him on the field this week. We think he'll be okay for training camp, but that's a little bit of a question mark until we see him running around out there with that foot injury. He said in March, that it would be maybe training camp time. So we have to keep an eye on the Van Ginkel situation. But the Blake Cashman contract, to me, that's reasonable. Like, he just needs to stay healthy. And I'll admit my bias. I've known Blake since he was at Eden Prairie High School. But Blake is a heck of a player. Go back and watch his tape last year. He keeps getting better and better and better. So I like just about everything they did this offseason. I like the Aaron Jones move. They're going to tweak some things they're doing running game wise. I know KOC wants to pass more than he runs, but they're going to put an emphasis on the run game more so this year compared to the last 2 years. So I'm curious to see how that plays out, all the tweaks they make with the running game. But yes, I think they had an unbelievably good offseason.
Mm-hmm. Judd, is everything okay over there?
Yeah, I put my cell phone down on a box, and the whole thing, House of Cards, just came down.
Wow. Is your phone okay?
But is the cell phone okay?
Oh, the cell phone's fine. It was very close to
I thought it was Stella.
Oh no,
Right.
no. But there was like a hockey puck on top of the box, and I tried to like balance the phone on there, and the whole thing just tumbled down.
Wow,
I'd like to
yeah.
apologize for the interruption that caused you.
No, it was good. I heard some sort of
Calamity.
commotion.
Yeah.
Plus, this Cottonwood, Uncle Mercy on Cottonwood.
Dude, it's
I think this Cottonwood
brutal.
is kicking my ass. I have something
fine.
right now. I feel fine, but it's congestion. It's the
Yeah, I got you.
sinuses.
It's
It's a little bit of
brutal.
a cough.
Yeah.
It's like, enough. Please.
What's
come
the point
on.
of it?
I don't know. I just
Like, why
I've
is it
seen
here?
enough Cottonwood flying around. I'm done with the Cottonwood.
Yeah, dude, it's like, well, that's how the snowing rumors got started from Charles Barkley it was like a week ago.
That's right.
And I think it was John Boy posted a video from Target Field, and it looked like it was snowing when you zoomed in. No, it's 78 degrees. It's just cottonwood flying all over the place. So, hey, let's get into the Tim Connelly thing here in just a moment after we say hello to our friends over at Nicolay Law, the exclusive personal injury law firm of some of our Score North podcasts. So Nicolay Law knows that when you or a loved one gets injured, ordinary life can come to a stop. They are here to get you the compensation you deserve after an accident. Nicolay Law, proud to live in and serve the Twin Cities communities. They're just normal, everyday folks that happen to have law degrees, and they are here to help you if you have been involved in an accident. So if you've been injured, get Minnesota's local award-winning injury lawyers. Get Nicolay at nicolaylaw.com or give them a call at 1-855-NICOLAY. And on the Twins front, right now, the Twins are on the road, but soon they will be back home and playing again at Target Field, one of the great ballparks in America. And you can get your tickets at twins.com/tickets, twins.com/tickets. Royce Lewis just got the email, literally came across 10 minutes ago. Royce Lewis officially activated from the injured list. So they'll finish out the road trip, and then you can get your tickets at Target Field to watch the premier star player on this roster. Also, the Twins have the 5th best record in the American League. Twins.com/tickets to get your tickets for this summer here. So, Dukes, let's go Timberwolves and Tim Connelly. Yesterday, Shams came out on one of his many shows, and he said, I'm paraphrasing, it feels like, according to his sources, things are progressing toward Tim Connelly renegotiating his deal that he can opt out of this summer. And if and when that takes place, he will go from making around $8 million to, as Shams said, something closer to $15 million. So that would mean in 2 years, Tim Connelly goes from Denver to Minnesota, goes from $4 million to $8 million to $15 million. What are you hearing about the Tim Connelly contract situation?
Well, I mean, it feels like that information came from the A-Rod/Lori side. Glenn Taylor, I would say at best has a lukewarm relationship with Tim Connelly. So we need to see how the ownership situation plays out.
Why is that though? Like, what, dude? He's a really good
knew this was
Pobo,
coming.
right? Right?
He's really good. But remember,
So-
Glenn was never going to hire him in the first place. Never.
Glenn, dude, that's wild. So is it
And
possible?
I think Tim just navigating both sides, I think it's just my word, when it comes to this situation, going back 2 years has been wonky, right? It has to be wonky for Tim trying
Yeah.
to
Oh,
navigate it all, right? And so I don't sense like Glenn and Tim have this unbelievably tight relationship. At least, like, you go back any number of years, the relationship Glenn had with the Pobo or general manager, whatever the title was, Kevin McHale, go on down the list, right? Like, even David Kahn, right? For all his flaws, Glenn and David had a good relationship. I just don't sense Tim and Glenn have that sort of relationship. It's cordial. Like, it's not like there's bitterness there or anything like that. Tim is always going to go up and hug Becky, right? And man hug
Right.
Glenn.
Fantastic.
But it's not this rock solid relationship. So what exactly in terms of leverage does Tim have in this moment? So
I have a theory.
Hey, I've tossed out, yes, like, of course you opt out of your contract. I just wonder if Tim, maybe put this, Judd, under the reckless speculation umbrella for a Thursday on a Tuesday.
Let's do it.
Does Tim re-up? So Tim is here next year, undoubtedly. Okay, Tim is here. But his new contract contains an opt-out clause after next year. So he's got the ability to opt out now, exercise that opt-out, sign a new contract. But the money, Phil, like I'm just telling you, if it's Glenn in charge, now if it's Mark and Alex, okay, let's have a different conversation. But if it's Glenn, I have a hard time believing that Glenn is paying an executive $15 million a year. I'm telling you. And I don't say that loosely. I've had a couple NBA executives tell me, I'll be shocked. Quote, I'll be shocked if Tim gets $15 million a year.
And that's fair if we want to debate the market price of Tim Connelly. But here's my theory on this, okay? Because these two sides do not like each other anymore. There's a ton of public mudslinging happening here. Tim Connelly is the child who can opt out of like the whole family if he wants to. And so Connelly's leverage is, hey, look what I've built the last two places. Very quickly, I can build these teams. But here's my theory, okay? You guys tell me if I'm...
Well, Gerson helped too. Let's not forget.
Of course.
Yeah.
So here's my theory. If you're Mark and Alex, maybe you float something to Shams. You float a little something saying, man, Tim Connelly, he's our dude. We love this guy. And of course, we are going to make him we're going to make him an offer he can't refuse. He's not opting out because guess what we're going to do? We're going to take him, as long as we can make the decision, from 8 to 15. Make him one of the premier highest paid pobos in the entire league. Let's king this man. And we could debate whether he's actually on that level or not. Like, he's done a really good job. But they put this out there and say...
I think he probably is, huh?
Yeah, they put it out there and say, hell yeah, we're keeping this guy around. He's the architect. Everyone loves him now. He was right about the Gobert trade, and we're gonna take him from $8 million to $15 million. Let's do it. Serving it back over to Glenn Taylor in the court of public opinion. And Glenn Taylor has to come out in some form. Maybe it's this right here on this show right now and say, no way. He's not worth $15 million. I would never pay Tim Connelly $15 million. And Mark and Alex can say, well, see, Wolves fans, this is the guy right here that's the architect of this whole thing. And Glenn looks like the bad guy, or is the bad guy, because he refuses to pay market value for one of the top pobos in the NBA. That's my theory.
Well, let's just say
because they don't have the power to do it themselves now. They don't own the team yet.
Correct. Yes, I would not dismiss that theory you just laid out. Now, Tim is on that level, but when I say Tim doesn't have leverage, like there's not a job open right now. And hey, I know it would be easy to say, okay, LA Clippers, go fire Lawrence Frank, right? Ballmer, you've got all this money. Pay off Lawrence Frank, you bring in Tim Connelly. It's not quite that simple, right? So he really doesn't have much leverage in this moment. That's why I'm suggesting you sign a new deal, comparable money. Maybe it's a little bit of an uptick money-wise, but certainly not $15 million per year. But then you have an ability, if you want to opt out. Maybe it's over the next handful of years, right? It's after next year. It's after the year after that, the year after that, right?
Halfway through.
Negotiate a bunch of opt-outs. But, like, yeah. I'm just telling you.
First half of the third game.
Hey, Shams has plenty of people he's in contact with, but I don't sense that information came from the Glenn Taylor side. I'm just telling you that right now.
So as far as the potential and God forbid it should actually take place, stability of this franchise, Doogs, at like what point now that the playoff run, now that the party is done, the fun is done. It sounds like the arbitration hearing will be August at the earliest. It might go into September.
Well, we'll get a date here in the next handful of days. As of yesterday, no date set. But yeah, that date is going to be later in the summer. I had heard months ago, July, but yeah, it may be August.
Here's my question.
If it's August.
When the season opens, when the regular season begins, when the ball is put in the air for the opening tip-off of the Timberwolves season, are we going to know who owns this team?
Yes, because there will be a ruling after the arbitration. That won't take like weeks upon weeks.
Okay.
Then the Board of Governors gathers enough where then the Board of Governors will take a vote thereafter. And when I say take a vote, that's me saying that, okay, you read the contract. It's pretty ironclad. Mark and Alex have one heck of a case. Now, hey, Glenn Taylor, his attorney Greg, others, they feel like they have one heck of a case. But I'm just saying, reading the 47 pages, don't ask why I did, but I went through it, not with a fine-tooth comb or anything like that, but I went through it enough. It's pretty darn rock solid, right? So I get where Mark and Alex are coming from really good case. Okay, so let's say Mark and Alex win the arbitration hearing. Okay, the judges rule in their favor. Then it goes to the Board of Governors. That's always been my question, Judd. Will the Board of Governors,
Right.
a lot of Glenn Taylor's close friends,
Right.
will the Board of Governors, you need what, 24 votes, 23 votes, or 23 or 24 governors? And when I say governor, that's the majority owner. So Glenn Taylor is currently the governor of the Timberwolves, right? Ballmer is the governor of the LA Clippers. So each team has one governor. Are 23 or 24 governors going to approve Mark Lowry and Alex Rodriguez as majority owners? I'm just saying that's the question that needs to be answered. But that's where I pause more than anywhere else.
I mean, Mark Cuban knows him from Shark Tank. Okay, so I don't know why you got one vote for sure. You got
Mark Cuban's no longer the governor.
He's not the governor. Yeah,
That's true. That's a good point.
He's not the owner anymore.
That's a good. Puts a
He
valid
just runs
point.
the team.
Yeah, I just find it funny that the battle is between Wachtell, which is like the premier law firm. If you need something done, a multi-billion
they
dollar,
are A+,
right,
Phil. They are so good. Yeah.
versus Greg. It's
Greg's
Wachtell
good.
It's my cousin Vinny.
versus Greg. Yeah.
In real life,
Greg and Glenn just rolling.
Greg
in.
is played by Joe Pesci.
Oh man, Dukes, give us some rapid fire scoops. Empty your scoop bag to end this episode, please.
Sure. Former Gopher Cam Christie due in for a Timberwolves workout in the coming days. There's fluidity to these draft workouts. They're targeting later this week, but could it be early next week? Could it be in 2 days, not 4 days? Sure. But Cam Christie due in for a Timberwolves workout. The Wolves hosted a bunch of draft prospects yesterday. 6. The name that stands out the most to me, Baylor Shireman from Creighton. Really good three-point shooter. Like, to me, he's a plug-and-play guy. Like, you could draft him at 27, then play him 10 minutes a game next year. So that's an intriguing name that was at Mayo Clinic Square yesterday. Walker Jenkins back with Fort Myers. Brooks Lee back with the St. Paul Saints tonight. So that's good. Royce Lewis, you mentioned. That's official. Royce Lewis back with the Twins against the Yankees tonight at Yankee Stadium. Edward Julian with the St. Paul Saints. The Twins were never in on Victor Robles, so the Nationals let him go. A few people asked me, hey, why don't the Twins cut the cord on Manuel Margot? Bring in Victor Robles. He's better. He can play center field. We thought Margot would play center field. Why doesn't Margot play center field? Anyway, the Twins were never in on Victor Robles, who went off to the Seattle Mariners. And, hey, Declan, you probably got a lot of this steam too, but I was told, even though it's the move I would have made, the Twins never even gave 10 seconds of thought to DFAing Kyle Farmer. That they value his leadership that much. That was never the move that was under consideration when thinking about, okay, the corresponding move, let's activate Royce Lewis. What's the corresponding move? DFAing Kyle Farmer. They never gave it any thought, even though that's the move I would have made.
The key in this town is clearly to have the name Kyle. You got Slow-Mo. You got Farmer, great locker room guys. That's the key. Just make sure your name is Kyle. You'll have a job for life.
Did Brodziak get a contract extension with the Wild at one point too?
Yeah, he did.
Oh yeah.
Good call, Kyle.
Great call. Great shootout guy. I heard that they love. I mean, they like him. Sausage guy too. He basically was the brains behind the sausage.
He's a sausage guy.
He's very
you
well liked
always
in the
need a
clubhouse.
sausage guy in the clubhouse, folks.
Yeah. And for a team that's eating money and not wanting to spend it, they're not going to eat the $6 million also that they paid him, which maybe going back probably just.
But will they eat the sausage, Declan? That's the question.
Yes, they'll eat the sausage. I think.
Well, and maybe they do. If Brooks Lee goes on a little run here, or Julian picks it up in St. Paul, do you reconsider? But I'm just saying, in this moment, right now, they never gave any consideration to DFAing Kyle Farmer. By the way, my favorite Kyle going back about 20 years, Kyle Loesch, right? I mean, the fact that he did the damage he did to Gardy's office door. I mean, I'll never forget that.
He was not
beat all
happy.
30 teams. One of the few players to do that.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah, no, he had a good run.
Kyle Gibson, another good one.
Kyle Gibson's a great guy. One of my favorites. Yep.
Kyle
he's
Rudolph,
made a lot
Judd?
of money, and he succeeded.
Kyle Rudolph,
So,
Judd loves Kyle.
That's
Rudolph.
another guy that they wouldn't get rid of. You're right. That's a great point. It's it's done. He's like, no, I'm not done. I want to keep playing. I still see him out there. I bet he's out there today watching the mini camp?
Probably not, though. Home base is Florida, so I don't know how much he's up here. But yeah, no, Rudolph's another good dude. So yeah. But yeah, you're right. There is something to be said about the name.
You just hang on forever.
It's all around good guys, this Kyle's. All right, Dukes. Great
See
scoop
you,
session here today.
All right, boys. Oh, and by the way, Micah Nori interviewing with Cleveland, but I was told that's Kenny Atkinson's job if he wants it. So good for Micah to get his name out there. He's got a good agent.
Yeah.
Right. And to me, it's when, not if, some team hires Micah Nori. Well deserved, with his situation to get an NBA head coaching job. Same for my guy Sean Sweeney, biased, but caught up with my guy Sean the other day, St. Paul native, Cretan-Durham Hall, University of St. Thomas. Jason Kidd's lead assistant. Game 1 NBA Finals Thursday night. That interview, shameless plug, on the KSTP website, sports page. I had a lengthy back and forth with Sean the other day. He had some good things to say about the Wolves' future, too. So check
Love
that
it,
out
man.
if you can.
Darren,
All right, boys.
Doogie, Wolfson. We'll see you on Thursday, Dukes.
Okay, sounds good. See ya.
All right, guys, that's Minnesota Sports with Mackey and Judd.